Karen got 9 years in prison over a pond, my pond, and somehow I'm still the one people side-eye at the feed store, like I started a war over ducks and muddy water. You think I'm kidding? But I watched a suburban HOA try to annex my land with a Facebook group, a forged map, and a megaphone that probably cost more than my first truck. Yeah, that happened. Let me back up a sec. I've lived on this land my whole life, 180 acres of stubborn, sun-baked Texas dirt, barns with more history than paint, a spring-fed pond the size of a small lake, and the same creaky 2-story farmhouse my granddad was raising hell and hogs in back when Hoover was president. I'm not sentimental, not really, but I've got a simple rule burned into my bones. You don't mess with a man's land, his water, or his coffee before sunrise. So it's a Thursday morning, windmills jammed again. I'm up to my elbows in grease and cussing at a piece of steel older than I am, when I see her, this woman walking up my gravel easement like she's serving me with destiny. Blonde bob, sunglasses the size of satellite dishes, fleece vest zipped to her chin like a Colorado ski mom got lost, and a tablet hugged to her chest like a holy book of HOA scripture. She stops at my fence and smiles that practiced. I sell $700,000 starter homes smile. Good morning. Are you the property caretaker? She asks, like I'm about to go fetch the real owner. I wipe my hands on my jeans. No, ma'am. I'm the one who owns the property. Name's Sam. Her smile doesn't twitch. She sticks out this perfectly manicured hand. Karen Childers. I'm president of the Silver Timber Ranches Homeowners Association. Of course she is. Silver Timber Ranches, I say, eyeing the tablet. That the new development to the east? She lights up. Just opened last fall. It's a conservation-style community for families looking to escape the chaos of the city. We're very focused on shared green space, community recreation, preserving the pastoral character of the landscape. I look down at her pricey hiking boots, already caked in my red clay. Well, you found pastoral all right. She doesn't laugh, not even a pity chuckle. She taps the tablet instead. Actually, we're currently assessing local natural resources, and your pond falls within the visual corridor of our western walking trail. A lot of our residents have been asking about access since it really feels like a community lake. We were hoping you'd be willing to discuss removing the perimeter fence and granting guest access on weekends. I just stare at her for a beat, wondering if it's a prank. You want me to let HOA folks use my private pond? Yes, she says, like she's asking for an extra packet of ketchup. Just for low-impact activities, kayaking, bird-watching, maybe light swimming. Yeah, that's going to be a hard no, I say. She gives me this tight little look, like I just declined to donate a kidney to the neighborhood. Perhaps you didn't understand, she says. It's very common in conservation communities to integrate natural features into shared use agreements. I'd be happy to provide our drafted access proposal. We even have a model liability waiver. Ma'am, I cut in. This pond was dug by my great-granddad in 1928. It's fed by 2 natural streams that fall under my registered water rights, confirmed by the state of Texas and the Bureau of Land Management. That fence you see is legal. Those no trespassing signs are legal. And nobody swims in that pond unless I say so, which I don't. She looks like I just slapped her with a live catfish. That's disappointing, she manages. Yeah, well, that's life, I say. She recovers with a plastic smile. I'll relay your perspective to our board. Just so you're aware, your fencing does cross the unofficial easement line that many locals believe is part of the old grazing trail. There's a history here. I laugh. History don't mean squat without documentation, and I've got enough paperwork to bury a lawyer. Have a good day, Mrs. Childers. She turns on her heel, boots kicking up dust like a little warning shot, and marches back toward her subdivision kingdom. I figure that's the end of it. One more bored HOA president with too much time, too many pamphlets, and not enough common sense. Deep down, though I know that look, that woman isn't walking away, she's circling. About a week later, a letter shows up in my mailbox that does not belong with the feed store flyers and utility bills. Thick, white envelope, embossed logo, trees and fake rustic swirls. Inside, notice of violation and environmental impact concern. Now, that's a phrase that'll ruin your morning. According to the letter, my fence is visually disruptive to their nature corridor. I'm blocking access to a communal natural resource, and the pond is historically unregulated and may be considered an ecological landmark subject to community oversight. Then they helpfully list recommended corrective actions: remove my fence, build a shared footpath, and attend their HOA meeting to explore easement integration. I read that thing twice, then laugh so hard I nearly spill my coffee. They're not just bold, they're weaponized bureaucratic. I scan it and send it to my attorney, Sarah Jenkins, a no-nonsense property rights lawyer who once made a judge cry in open court. She calls me 10 minutes later. Sam, this is absolute nonsense. Thought so, I say. I'm drafting a cease and desist. Posted at the trailhead. These people are fishing, and yeah, pun absolutely intended, for legal gray areas. Don't let them think you're bait. They're poking the wrong bear, I tell her. Couple days later, I catch 3 HOA volunteers toddling along inside my fence line. Tan vests with little patches, clipboards out. One of them recording on his phone like he's filming a documentary. I stroll over, shotgun resting in the crook of my arm, not loaded, just persuasive. You folks need something? I ask. Clipboard guy jumps. We're conducting an environmental audit of the shared corridor space adjacent to community boundaries. You're on my land, I say, flat as dry dirt. The trail path is mapped as semi-public access per our Greenway initiative. Your initiative ain't law. I nod toward the bright red no trespassing sign 6 feet away. And that sign's been there longer than your subdivision's been a Pinterest board. The woman with them tries to soften it. We're just concerned about wildlife passage. The pond appears to be a key migration point for several native bird species. The only thing migrating, I say, stepping closer, is your nonsense back across my property line. Turn around. They shuffle off, muttering. That evening, another letter arrives, longer, more self-important, citing zoning passages that haven't seen daylight since 1973. They've even got a blurry map, where someone clearly dragged the HOA boundary over my land like a drunk dog marking a couch. I don't laugh this time. I go to the back room, unlock my old metal filing cabinet, and start laying out my arsenal. Deeds, water rights, BLM certificates, USDA grant letters, maps stamped by more government seals than Karen's ever seen outside a DMV. I copy everything, send a fat packet to Sarah, and draft my own letter to the HOA board. Certified mail, neat as a sermon. Any further intrusion or unauthorized communication, I write, will be treated as harassment and referred directly to the sheriff and my legal counsel. I figure that'll slow them down. I figure wrong. Next thing I know, 7:15 Tuesday morning, someone's pounding on my front door like they're trying to knock it off the hinges. I open it barefoot, coffee in hand, and there they are, 2 deputies, cruiser half crooked in my driveway. Morning, you Sam Ratliff? The older one asks. I am, I say. What's this about? The younger one clears his throat. We received a formal complaint from the Silver Timber Ranches Homeowners Association regarding alleged unlawful occupation of land and waterway usage. I blink. Come again? They're claiming you're occupying a tract of land and a pond that have been reclassified by the HOA as a community access natural resource. They're asking for a temporary vacate order while the county reviews the case. So let me get this straight, I say. Some suburban paper pushers redrew my property lines in Microsoft Paint, and now you're here to ask if I'll leave my own damn house. We're not forcing anything, the older one says quickly, but we do need to see your documentation. Yeah, I say, jaw tight. Give me a minute. I come back with everything, deed notarized in 42, federal land patent from 68, state verified water rights, USDA inclusion letter, laminated topo map with parcel boundaries bold as a punch in the nose. Spread it all across the porch rail like I'm laying down a royal flush. 15 minutes of phone calls later, the younger deputy comes back, face a little red. Appreciate your cooperation, Mr. Ratliff. There's no legal standing for the HOA's claims. We'll file a report noting you have clear title and control. Glad to hear it, I say. Next time somebody sends you fanfiction property lines, maybe knock a little softer. They suggest more signage. I tell them it's already glowing in the dark, and they leave. I'm standing there, watching the dust settle, when a white SUV rolls up to the trailhead. Karen. She just sits there, sunglasses on, staring at my house like she's trying to will it off the map. I raise my coffee cup to her and go back inside. That night, someone sends me a screenshot from their HOA Facebook group. Karen's post reads, "Unfortunately, local enforcement is unwilling to act on community claims at this time. Mr. Ratliff has chosen confrontation over cooperation. The pond is for all of us." Cute. Next morning, I find tire tracks by the southern fence, leading right down to the pond. There's an orange kayak dripping on the bank, empty beer box, chip bags, a lawn chair set up like it's a public park. 2 teenage boys paddling around in life vests like they're at summer camp. I check the cameras, midnight footage of folks slipping through the treeline with coolers and headlamps, no hesitation, no guilt. I file a report at the sheriff's office. Young deputy shrugs and tells me, without a clearly posted perimeter and documented disputes, it's hard to treat this as criminal trespass, especially if the HOA is claiming historical use. Might be civil court territory, so because I didn't ring the pond with landmines and razor wire, it's a free-for-all? I ask. He just lifts his hands. Not saying it's right, just saying it's tricky. By noon, it looks like a 4th of July potluck exploded on my shore. 7 cars, umbrellas, Bluetooth speaker blasting bad country pop, kids running toward the water, some guy dragging out a canoe. Karen said it's fine, he tells me. It's the community lake. She even posted a map. That's Facebook law. I snap. Try it in court. That's when I realize this isn't going away with signs and stern letters. This isn't just annoying anymore, it's dangerous. For my land, for the wildlife, for every stubborn old rancher who's gonna get steamrolled if this kind of nonsense flies. So I stop reacting and start hitting back. That night, I install more cameras, post new signs in 3 languages, and start making calls. First, my old USDA supervisor. Then Marcy Ruiz from the Bureau of Land Management. Blast from the past. Years ago we worked easement disputes together. She's the kind of woman who can walk into a meeting with a folder and walk out with 3 grown men apologizing to a map. She answers on the first ring. Sam Ratliff, you stirring up dust again? Not yet, I say. But I'm real close. I send her everything, deeds, parcel maps, GPS coordinates, screenshots from Karen's little crusade, footage of kids stomping through turtle nests and people grilling and tossing trash like it's a tailgate instead of a habitat. By Monday, I get a call from Field Agent Thomas Baird with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. This area is a designated habitat corridor, he tells me. We've seen your photos, those soft-shell turtle nests, the crushed vegetation. Any unauthorized activity could be considered a federal wildlife disturbance. We're dispatching a team. Tuesday afternoon, 3 government SUVs roll up my drive, khakis, hats, clipboards everywhere. They walk the banks, take soil samples, photograph damage, watch my footage, take notes like they're collecting sins. That evening, Baird comes back with a report. You have clear federal water rights, Mr. Ratliff. This property is well outside HOA jurisdiction. We've also documented several violations of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Endangered Species Act from unpermitted recreational use. I nod slowly. Glad someone's finally seeing it. It's not just Karen's attitude, he adds. The HOA board voted to include your pond in their community recreation zone and submitted that charter to the county, without disclosing it isn't their land. I whistle low. So they forged it. Legally, he says, it's looking that way. Good, I say. About time someone brought the hammer down. By Thursday, my pond looks different, not like a playground, like a line in the sand. Federal boundary markers, laminated notices from Fish and Wildlife, new no trespassing, federal violation, video-monitored signs shining in the Texas sun, motion-activated sirens at the trailhead. Subtle was dead. This was the funeral. By mid-morning, there's a crowd at the edge of the trail, lawn chairs, binoculars, one guy flying a drone like it's a war documentary. Karen stands front and center in a coral blouse, arms crossed, putting on a show. This is overreach, she screams across the field. You can't claim natural water as private. That's environmental greed. I step onto my porch and hold up the federal report. She yells, that pond was used for decades by this community. Your HOA has existed 14 months, I shout back. Then she makes her big move. She throws an arm out and declares, we do not recognize the so-called federal interference. We will continue using the pond as part of our historical recreation rights, starting now. 2 teenagers with inner tubes, and some guy with a cooler step forward, like she's leading them into glory. I just point to the motion detector. It beeps. Seconds later, a black SUV pulls up. Not mine. Agent Baird steps out with 2 more officers, all business. Ma'am, he calls, we informed you in writing that use of this land without authorization is a violation of federal code. You are in breach of a federal order. I have rights, she snaps. No, ma'am, he says calmly. You have a lawsuit. Within 10 minutes, they've taken names, issued citations, and sent everyone packing. Karen retreats, red-faced, muttering about overreach and corruption, like she's the star of her own conspiracy podcast. Feels like the end, but it's just the twist. One of the officers turns to me before they leave. By the way, we found forged documentation in the HOA's county charter submission. They moved your property line nearly 200 feet on paper. That's a felony. I just stare for a second, letting it sink in. This woman didn't just push her luck. She might have pushed herself straight into a prison jumpsuit. Couple weeks later, it's official. 2 unmarked sedans roll up to Silver Timber Ranches. Karen gets served in her own driveway. Charges for document forgery, unlawful interference in land registry filings, obstruction of protected agricultural land, the whole buffet. Her board resigns in a wave, treasurer, secretary, even a guy whose official HOA title was Community Drone Oversight, which tells you everything you need to know. Local news has a field day. Headline reads something like, HOA president accused of land grab faces felony forgery. I don't confirm, don't deny, just read it with my morning coffee. My conservation status gets upgraded. More protection. More funding. Ironically, more fencing. Sarah files a civil suit like she's swatting a fly. Damages for trespass, habitat destruction, defamation, legal fees, emotional distress for good measure. Karen tries to rally with a GoFundMe called Protect Our Pond Rights. Raises about $600 and a whole lot of side-eye. By the time we're in court, it's a done deal. The judge, middle-aged woman, tired eyes, the kind of face that's seen one too many HOA complaints, listens to Karen ramble for maybe 30 seconds before cutting her off. Ma'am, she says, dry as desert stone, the United States Department of the Interior, 2 federal agencies, and the state of Texas disagree with you. Unless you've got a brand new constitutional theory I haven't heard in 20 years on this bench, sit down. Verdict comes fast. My land boundaries confirmed. Pond recognized as private. HOA found negligent. Karen personally liable for falsifying documents and stirring this whole mess. Silver Timber Ranches HOA ordered to dissolve within 30 days. Assets liquidated to pay damages. Total restitution, about $2.1 million. It was never about the money, though I'll be honest, watching their fancy clubhouse furniture pay for my new solar irrigation system did feel poetic. Karen gets 9 years, maybe 5 with good behavior. I'm not betting on it. Last I heard, she argued with a game warden about duck migration patterns, so yeah. The HOA signs come down. Streets lose their fake fancy names. Some neighbors move out quiet. Some show up at my door with pie and apologies. One guy brings wine, sits on my porch, and admits he never realized how peaceful the pond was without a crowd of people trying to curate it. A month later, I get asked to speak at a regional landowner summit. Talk about standing your ground, they say. So I tell them about all of it, the Yoga Vest invasion, the forged map, the cult light protest with dream catchers and a steel drum, the federal SUVs, the turtle nest that ended up meaning more in court than 1,000 angry Facebook comments. And I tell them this, you don't just own the land, you're responsible for it. You remember who walked it before you, and who's going to walk it after you. When someone tries to turn your home into a backdrop for their brochure, you don't negotiate your rights away because they printed a pretty map. You fix the fence, you weld the gate, and you stand there until the dust settles. These days, when I sit by the pond, it's quiet again, trees reflecting in the water, turtles sunning on the log, no Bluetooth speakers, no drones, no pop-up cult retreats. On the new fence, right above that turtle nest, there's a custom sign, big red letters, simple as it gets. Private property. Trespassing will not be tolerated. Never again. And here's what still sticks with me. If I hadn't had the paperwork, the patience, the stubborn streak to push back, that pond might have ended up as Silver Timber Community Lake, on some brochure, like my family never existed. So tell me, was what happened to Karen justice, overkill, or still not enough for what she tried to pull? If you were in my boots, standing on your granddad's land, watching strangers claim it with a Facebook post and a forged map, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts, your own stories about HOAs, neighbors, land, what you think is truly right or wrong when it comes to shared spaces and private property. I'm real curious where you draw the line, and what you'd be willing to defend when someone decides your home is suddenly theirs for the good of the community. You know what I mean?